I now call this meeting of the Lafayette Public Utilities Authority to order. We welcome you to the LPUA meeting. We, as your representatives in the LPUA, welcome your involvement and encourage your participation. This meeting is a public hearing. If you wish to address the LPUA on any item on the agenda, please fill out a blue Request to Address the LPUA form, noting the agenda item number. That blue form is available to you in the foyer, and you should submit it to the council clerk, Ms. Veronica L. Williams, seated to my left in the middle, prior to the call of the agenda item. It is important to fill in the blue form completely and note the specific agenda item number about which you wish to speak. If the card is not legible to the clerk, you will not be given the opportunity to speak. If you have materials you wish to submit to the LPUA, please give those to Ms. Williams along with your blue form. In an effort to allow everyone an opportunity to be heard, the 5-minute rule will be in effect. Speakers shall refrain from debating, personal attacks, and from making confrontational or derogatory comments. I'm requesting that the first row to my left be used for media only. Food and drinks are not allowed in the auditorium, and all phones and electronic devices shall be silenced from this point forward. I'm also requesting that anyone who approaches the LPUA state their name and title for the official record. Meeting procedures are by resolution and not by Robert's Rules of Order. Documents, including agendas, ordinances, resolutions, and minutes related to this and other meetings, are posted online at LafayetteLA.gov, or you may refer to the web address on the top of the agenda. I don't have any announcements to make from the chair's position. Anything from the LPUA? Mr. Mayor President, do you have anything, sir? The first item on the agenda tonight is for comments from the public on matters related to LUS. V, do we have any blue cards?
We do have one speaker, Mike Stagg.
I just would remind you that this portion of our meeting is an opportunity to make your voice heard before the LPUA, the administration, and the public. This is the time to speak about LUS topics that are not included as agenda items. We do request that all matters regarding specific LUS employees be directed to the administration and that it not be addressed at this public forum. We, as the LPUA, have a concern for the privacy and protection of government employees. With that said, however, if your concern is not resolved in either an expeditious or satisfactory fashion, there are other avenues which can be pursued, and we ask that you follow up with the council office. Also, confrontational statements and/or threats will not be tolerated. We ask that you conduct yourself in a civil manner and with the same courtesy that you would expect of others, and of course, the 5-minute rule will prevail. Our first public comment is from Mr. Stagg. Either one. Thank you, Mike.
All right, thank you for allowing me to come up here today. I live at 200 Fox Run number 3, which is kind of in a pocket, unincorporated pocket of Lafayette. I have Slimco Power, LUS Water, Cox Communications. I'm here to request that you seriously consider, I know that your budget process is rolling and all that, but there needs to be greater transparency in the operation of LUS. Matters are brought to you, finalized based on their internal procedures without adequate review. And you have no technical staff to allow you to evaluate these decisions, many of which involve hundreds of millions of dollars like this bond issue does. That's actually larger than the fiber project. There needs to be some kind of technical analysis, objective technical analysis that can be brought to the proposals brought to you so that not only you, but ratepayers can be served adequately and make sure that their best interests are honored. I point to a series of decisions made over the last 4 years that have cost ratepayers an exceptional amount of money, and some of them have come back to embarrass y'all. The first one was the move to reinvest in the coal-fired plant at Boyce. That is Lafayette projects itself as a progressive community. There are mercury warnings on over 40 bayous, lakes, and streams in Louisiana. The primary form of mercury contamination in the environment is coal-fired power plants. This is Lafayette's gift to the rest of Louisiana. Mercury is a neurotoxin and inflicts tremendous harm on those exposed to it in great quantities. In fact, those warnings say that expectant mothers and children should not eat fish taken from those bodies of water. That is what mercury does in the environment. LUS, you just committed to 30 more years of this plant when there are other alternatives out there. They were not fully examined in the analysis that went in and was brought to y'all as the basis for that decision 4 years ago. Might have been longer than 4 years ago. The rate increases for upgrade of the grid that went through, consecutive rate increases in 2 years in a row on every ratepayer to finance the enhancement of the grid, which when you started buying from MISO is not needed anymore. The solar tax, another example of a decision brought to you without adequate independent technical analysis. These are the kind of decisions that are costing ratepayers money on a regular basis. And as much as I admire Terry, he's a great guy, and y'all are all good people, without objective technical analysis, you don't know if you're making the right decision. And these decisions, again, come back on ratepayers, every one of us, and I think put Lafayette at a competitive disadvantage. We are continuing to invest in obsolete technology at a time when the rest of the world is turning away from it. And Louisiana, South Louisiana faces an existential threat. That's climate change. We see when earlier this year we had a small tropical storm move across the Gulf, and if you read the reports from Wildlife and Fisheries Department, we had boat landings and facilities all across the Gulf Coast that were damaged by that. God knows what would happen if we had another major hurricane here. We've been blessed not to have that, but climate change is real. The state's going to spend $50 billion to try to save parts of our coast, and yet we continue to reinvest as a community in fossil fuel burning technologies that feed the process that are going to drive us from our homes. And the sea level projections included in the Coastal Master Plan that was approved by the state, but it was approved by the legislature, and we are trying to raise the money to pay for, shows that sea level rise in this century in South Louisiana is going to be 6 feet. Now, the Advocate had a map on a story that appeared on May 1st, 2016. You should look at that map and see where that puts us. It puts us on a peninsula cut off from I-10 east and west of here. So I think it's incumbent upon you as both a fiduciary responsibility and as representatives of the people of Lafayette to incorporate into the operation of the LPUA independent third-party analysis of proposals brought to you, whether it's power generation or other projects, so that we can make sure that the best interests of the citizens of Lafayette are served. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any other blue cards? Thank you, ma'am. The only other item on the agenda is a director's update. Mr. Huval.
Thank you, and good afternoon. Wanted to give you an update about our line crews and their work in Florida. We were requested after Hurricane Irma came in to provide some support to our friends in Tallahassee, and those who are watching this and that the council LPUA level recognize that the folks in Tallahassee really helped bail us out for several hurricanes that we've had in the past. And they contacted us when they saw the storm was coming their way, asked us if we could commit some crews to go there, and we said absolutely. We have a mutual aid agreement with other municipalities to be able to help assist them in that way, where they pay all of our costs and they handle their business with FEMA afterwards. So we don't come up with anything that's short on our end as a result of that, except for the fact we have some of our crews out of town. So we have half of our line crews that are working in Florida right now. The other half of the crews are working well here in town and keeping things going. Of course, the weather's been really nice, so it hasn't been any of a bit of a problem. So worked in Tallahassee for about a week, and then have been working in Lakeland, Florida, to provide some assistance there. And once we're finished at Lakeland, if there's some additional assistance that is needed, we'll try and help. We're probably going to start swapping out some of the crews probably by the end of this week, give some of those guys a break. They're working 16-plus-hour days in some very difficult conditions. of course, the sun is out and bright out there, so you can about imagine what they're going through. But safety is utmost important to us, and we make sure we go through that every day with our crews to be sure they have what they need to get started the day in a safe way, as well as the resources they need beyond that point. So you can be very proud of the work that our guys are doing out there, and we're going to be looking forward to having them back soon. It wouldn't be appropriate for me not to at least make some comments. You know, Mike Stagg and I've known each other for a long time, and I have a lot of respect for him in a lot of ways. Just some things I wanted to bring to your attention. You know, the investments we made with the coal plant were investments that we needed to make, otherwise we would have been out of compliance. We could have converted to a natural gas plant. At that time, natural gas prices were high. It didn't make sense to the owners of the plant to be able to spend the money to convert to a natural gas plant and then increase rates to customers. Since that time, natural gas prices have dropped significantly. I guess anybody who would have had could have known that for sure. You know, it'd been helpful. But in the meantime, the good things that we've made with the environmental controls we put in at the coal plant have actually reduced the mercury levels that Mike was talking about considerably. So, you know, the environmental improvements we made to the plant are actually beneficial to the environment, to the state as a whole. Plus, as a result of our joining MISO, which was really a good move. I'm not saying we were geniuses by making the decision to do it. It's an opportunity that fell in our laps, and we took advantage of it. We've taken that plant and basically dropped the amount of operation we have of it by almost half. I think it's about maybe 60% of what it was before. So we're actually, besides having, you know, making some investments to remove some of the environmental issues, we've also reduced the operation of the plant too, so that even reduces that much further. The upgrade of the grid, I realize that you know, it's a complex system, so it's kind of hard to explain all of that. But the investments that Entergy, CLECO, and LUS made were critical to the reliability of power here. There were those that suggested in previous council that perhaps that maybe we didn't need to do that. It was just a scare tactic that we're going to have power outages, and before we could get the grid upgraded, we had a power outage early morning of a very cold day. There were rolling blackouts in the city of Lafayette and in Acadiana because of not having adequate transmission capacity. So there was no statement strong enough to, besides that one, to be able to say that that was certainly an investment we needed to make, and actually has saved us some money through the MISO arrangement. Now, MISO, as you know, we talk about it often. There's two aspects to it. There's the cost of generation that you can bring in, but you got to have adequate transmission capacity to ship that power. If it turns out that you have bottlenecks in the transmission system, you can't get the power to you, then you can't take advantage of that low-cost power. So it's not only for reliability, but also has saved us and our customers a lot of money. And you know, we're open to the whole idea of renewables, but it has to make sense. It has to be something I can come to you and say, look, if we do this, it's going to save customers money in the long term. You know, if it turns out it's costing customers more money in the initial times, you know, we have to be very conscious of that. And because I know in the dealings I have with customers, virtually every day I speak to a customer has an issue with a bill issue, and we try our best to work with them, you know, and they're looking for us to keep their rates low, and we have to continue to keep a very close eye on that. If I have any other notes here I wanted to comment on. I think that's pretty close to it. Reliability and keeping the power costs low is important. We have had conversations with, I just wanted to comment on, with renewable folks. I mean, it's probably, you know, at least once a month I have somebody coming in to visit with us on some of the solar operations that are taking place in other countries, and they all acknowledge, you know, Louisiana is not as viable a place for solar as other places because of the cloud cover. When the clouds hit, then you lose a considerable amount of the energy that you can produce with solar. There are some arrangements that are being made with some utilities where where people want to invest in solar through the utility system. Commercial companies sometimes want to do. They want to reduce their usage of I guess regular electric power and try to take advantage of whatever you can get from renewables. And when we see a program that we think is going to make sense, we're going to come to you with that, and certainly, share the debate in this forum on those issues. And let's see if there's any others. That's all I have on my list, I think. We're going to keep our doors open to listening to what the public wants and listening to what our elected officials are looking for, and try to achieve what we think is best ultimately for the overall community, and certainly bringing the proper resources to assist us in that. Thank you for your attention.
Mr. Boudreau.
Terry, I want to request from the department, specifically like the way you just delivered it, a fact sheet that can be made available to any and everybody from every walks of life. I guess Mike had to leave, but the issue of, like, if we take the first one, the investment in the coal plant, and I was one of those council members who voted for that. So, and we do rely on a lot of information from the department, where the technical support is actually located. I think sometimes people view government as the administration is a segment, the council is a segment, and the department is a segment. And I've always tried to make people understand that every employee of this government has the people's interest in mind. Maybe they could see LU as, because for so long people kept telling them that you got to run it like a business, and it's a business. Maybe they think that LUS is not necessarily for the people, and I don't agree with that, but that maybe their motives are otherwise. So when I have voted on some of the issues Mike brought forward over the years, and I relied on that technical information that I was able to verify, whether it was through the department or even the utilization of other sources, like some of our professional affiliates through LMA, NLC, bond folks, and all these other people look into this. The public maybe don't know it, or they might not even appreciate it. I know on numerous occasions some of the environmental regulations that went through changes. My good friend, President Barack Obama, he was very critical of coal and clean environment. And we had to do some significant things to meet the federal regulations that was in place at that time. I don't know if everybody knows that. I think some people may just see you did it, I mean, not you literally, but it was done because we just wanted to do it. And maybe they don't understand, maybe put in that the fines associated with being out of compliance. Because I remember researching and looking at that information and knowing what it would cost if we did not come into compliance. And maybe if we have some fact, not upon when somebody asks for it, just readily available. We got all this technology now. We could just get it out there and address some of these issues, like reinvesting in whether it's, a particular plant, the grid, all of the things Mike brought up, but so many other issues that have come up over the last few years. And maybe they would get to the point where they would at least have the information we have. And it would, I think, answer a number of their questions. I had a chance to meet with a couple of groups, and my now good friend, President Donald Trump, he's almost the complete opposite. So the rules change again. So guess what? When the rules change up here, it filters all the way down here, right? And it requires changes and adjustments throughout. And then there's this thing called compliance and oversight and regulation. And if you don't do it, you're in a lot of trouble, and it costs a lot of money. Okay? So I'm requesting from the department, in as timely a manner as you can, that we start to take some of these and be able to fully explain why. Now, that might not convince anybody of anything. I get that. But at least they would know the logic behind the decision. Now, that's not going to get everyone there. I think it's going to get some folks there. And then, as you indicated, then the idea to move forward. Government is a very interesting thing. We all know that. The bond issue, as it relates, there was a lot of folks who have come here over the last year or so expressing concerns about this and that. I've been privy as a council member and the administration to know how we're going to address that. You know, and yeah, the budget has been adopted and it's in the budget, but you know, there can be movement or no movement based on what is decided among all of these associations and the timing and what's right and what's proper and what's better. So unfortunately, everything doesn't always get down to the ground level, but unfortunately, everybody don't always engage at the level that there can be engagement. So the more we could put out, I think the better off we are. And I would like to start with like the list you just addressed here tonight, with the details about the compliance. You know, I don't want to just leave it out there that we reinvested in a coal plant. Let's say why. Because a lot of times when people understand why something had to be done, you know, I like to tell people these plants, I recall, is not as simple as just going like to a light switch and turn it off. You know, the maintenance and the environmental mandates, even well after a plant is shut down, cost a lot of money. We man plants now that we don't use anymore. I don't know if everybody knows that. I know it, so when I make my decisions, I'm making them based on what I know. Maybe if others knew more, they would have a little better understanding. So if we can, let's get more information out.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boudreau. Anything else, Mr. Huval?
No, sir.
With that said, this meeting is adjourned.
We have a special meeting that we're going to now call to order, please. This meeting is being held as a joint meeting per the request of Bond Council since the original general bond ordinance was adopted in joint session in 2004. I will ask Jeremy to read the ordinance. I will then call for a motion and second from the council to adopt. Then the LPUA Chair, Bruce Kunk, will do the same, calling for that same motion and second to adopt by LPUA. Item number 2, ordinance number 0186, ordinance 186, 2017. Bond Council has requested an amendment to change the language in section 7 and to add new exhibits to the ordinance that's in your packet, members. Also, another quick announcement, Councilmember Bellard is unable to attend this meeting, but he should be with us by the time we start the regular scheduled council meeting. So with that said, I'm going to ask Jeremy to please read item number 2.
Ordinance 186, 2017, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council and the Lafayette Public Utilities Authority, amending and supplementing ordinance number 152, 2017, adopted on August 8, 2017, recognizing and approving the execution of the bond purchase agreement, the official statement, and the bond insurance commitment, ratifying the employment of bond counsel, and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
Motion by Mr. Terrio, second by Mr. Kunk. Mr. Kunk, your mic is on, please.
A motion from the LPUA to adopt the ordinance, please. Moved by Ms. Cook, seconded by Ms. Hebert.
Thank you very much. We're going to now open up the floor for council and LPUA discussion, please. Discussion across the board. Mr. Terrio?
Mr. Osborne, if you don't mind, could you give us, or one of you guys give us the good news on what actually happened with this, please?
I'm going to let Lee come up. I think he's giving you numbers, and it's the most important thing is about the nice savings that you're going to receive. So,
Thank you so much. Mr. Lee?
Good evening, Lee Brester with Raymond James. There's a handout in front of you, and I'll just run through it very quickly. As you can see, the bonds that were outstanding had a 4.84% interest rate, which isn't extremely high, but we were able to reduce that cost down to about 2.93%, so almost 200 basis points of reduction. The new bonds had yields from a 1.18 to a 3.05. And it was very interesting the way that this transaction played out, because at the time that we were ready to go, Hurricane Harvey was still churning around in southwest Louisiana, and the rating agencies weren't willing to release their rating until the storm passed. And we had conference calls, and we were FaceTiming with them saying, look how nice it is here, and they still wouldn't release the ratings. So we said, well, we're just going to proceed with getting the issue ready, and when they're ready, then we'll have the ratings before we sell the bonds. And then the second thing is that Hurricane Irma was in the, right about to demolish the state of Florida, and one of the big sets of buyers is the property and casualty insurance companies, and we weren't sure if they were going to be hoarding their cash or not, but in essence, they were big buyers of this issue, so they must have known in advance that they wouldn't have as big a loss as they thought. In addition, we had talked to two of the bond insurers. We normally don't get bond insurance on your utilities issue because it's so highly rated, but because of everything that was going on, we said, let's get some bids from the bond insurers, and the bids came in at the lowest levels that I've ever seen in my 35 years in the business. It was about less than 2 basis points a year to get bond insurance to get their ratings. And so with everything going on in the market and the hurricanes, the bond insurance helped multiple of that, of the 2 basis points. So the time when we were ready to sell the issue, the 10-year Treasury had dropped to a 2.06%, which was the lowest of this year. And you can thank our friends in North Korea for helping reduce the Treasury rates by shooting a few missiles over Japan. Later, about a week later, the Treasury went from a 2.06 to a 2.19, and I think it was a 2.24 today. So that window of opportunity closed very, very fast, but you all were able to benefit because the rates were locked in at the 2.06 Treasury rate. But we knew that there was going to be a good market because a lot of bonds had been redeemed. It was a very low supply that week after Labor Day, so all the moons lined up for that particular issue. So we went out into the market trying to sell about $60 million worth of bonds,
and we put some very low interest rates on there just to see what we could come up with. And instead of selling 60 million of bonds, we got orders for over 400 million of bonds. So investors were coming out from everywhere, and we had 36 different investors putting in 159 different orders. And so we were well oversubscribed on that issue. And thanks to Ms. Toops, she put some pressure on us, and we went back and we said, okay, we know we need to drop the yields, but how much do we need to drop them by? And we were able to get from 7 to 12 basis points of reduction, which is usually, if you can get 2 or 3 or 4, you're lucky on the repricing. And we have a list of some of the major providers, some of the major purchasers on here, and some of those names should look very familiar, including several insurance companies. On page 7 is the actual savings, and the number that we're keyed in on is the $8.6 million of the net savings, and the big number is the net present value benefit for the refunded principal of 9.25%. The bond commission requires 3%. The government here likes at least 4 or 5, but this was 9. So we got probably 3 times what the bond commission requires and almost twice what LCG has typically been willing to accept. But obviously they were pushing for over 6%, and we got over 9%. And so we're very proud that we were able to do that. And it was a team effort. There were a lot of folks here on the team, and they all deserve credit. Sir, thank you. It was a good day for bonds with LCG and with you also helping Ms. Tube. So good job, guys. Thank you. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Any other council discussion? There is none. Are there any blue cards on this matter?
No, sir.
Okay.
Make one additional comment, please. I don't know of another bond issue. I've been coming to Lafayette for a number of years now, and I don't know any other bond issue that your staff was worked as hard as it was on this issue. There were many different things to handle. It required a lot of work from your staff, and a lot of review of the documents, which were constantly changed and constantly reviewed. And I know Lori and her staff just turned in a remarkable performance, and Terry and his staff did the same thing. And so I know that you're happy to hear that they did a sparkling job, and the people from out of state that worked on the project were amazed that they were so knowledgeable and that they could review the documents so efficiently and well.
Thank you. Any other comments?
My staff and I like to thank Jerry for that recognition. They do a good job, they work hard, and we managed to do all this while working on budget. So
Yeah.
we were happy that it was so successful. We also want to, when you look at the list of people that purchased our bonds, we had a lot of new people, names I'd never seen before, names that we like to see, like Louisiana Farm Bureau. They purchased some of our bonds, Lowe's Corporation. And we believe that some of that had to do with our new investor website that is out there, and it offers a lot of financial transparency, but also a lot of information about our bonds. So we were excited to see the different names and the different purchases.
Okay, thank you so very much. Okay, you've acknowledged that there's no blue cards on this matter, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is, we're going to entertain a motion to amend the ordinance by first the council. Terry, you offers that. Conk seconds. Mr. Conk?
Need a motion and a second, motion from the council, from the LPUA on the proposed amendment. Moved by Ms. Cook, second by Ms. Hebert.
Okay. What we're going to first do is call the vote on the amendment, and this is going to be by the council first, then immediately following, we're going to call the vote on the amendment by LPUA.
District 1? 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8?
Yes.
District 9?
Yes.
Motion to amend by council is approved.
Call for the vote from the LPUA on the amendment. This is a voice vote only.
District 3? District 4?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8?
Yes.
Motion to amend by LPUA is approved.
Thank you very much. Now call for the vote by the council as amended.
District 1? District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6? District 7?
Yes.
District 8? District 9? Motion to adopt as amended by council is approved.
Call for the vote from the LPUA to adopt the ordinance as amended. Again, this is a voice vote only.
District 3? District 4?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8?
Yes.
Motion to adopt as amended by LPUA is approved.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.